Welcome to the Health Fix podcast, where health junkies get their weekly fix of tips, tools, and techniques to have limitless energy, sharp minds, and fit physiques for life. Health junkies, on this episode of the Health Fix podcast, I'm interviewing Marcela Tobal Benson. She is a spiritual nutrition counselor. And what the heck does that mean? It means that she's looking at food from an experience, how your body feels with the food, but also how you think about the food. Now that might sound a little strange, but really, let's think about it for a minute. How far disconnected are we from where we get our food, how we interact with our food, and what it does for us? A lot of us don't think about food. We think about what sounds good, but we're not thinking about what's behind the food that's going to give us nutrition. You know, maybe we think about macros like protein, fat, carbs, fiber, things of that nature, but we don't really think about what minerals are in foods, what vitamins are in foods, and what maybe the purpose is for the foods. So I've geeked out for years, much like Marcela, in putting herbs into my food. I even created herb spices at one point for patients so that they could sprinkle them into their food. They'd get the herbs, but they'd also have the particular flavor that they were going for. And so Marcela does very similar things. And in particular, she's focusing a little bit more on raw foods and vegan foods. I kind of mix mine up. But what she's really getting at in this podcast is talking about how you want to bring your concept of what's going on in your life, your environment, everything as a whole as part of your experience with food. So thinking about, do you need something to boost up your energy? Do you need something to work on your stomach? Do you need something to help with your sleep? You can put certain herbs into your food to help give whatever purpose you're looking for. It's kind of like food with a purpose here. So anyway, she and I get into a great conversation in this podcast about life in general and what you can do with your food. And by the end, she gives us some really great tips on how to spice up certain foods. One of the things that we talked about, but I didn't get it on the recording, was how you might have a craving for sulfur, right? So you're like, oh, I better eat some eggs. And so sometimes we'll not even connect that. We'll just be like, I really want eggs. But maybe you need sulfur in your diet. Some people don't, others do. But you could look at it going, okay, what could create that same taste of like an egg salad? Well, you can do that with chickpeas. You can do that with turmeric, onions. Combine all of that together and get a very similar taste to egg salad. Why? Because those things are sulfur-rich herbs and living foods. So the idea with this podcast, I really want you to think about how you could take herbs that you maybe take on a daily basis, maybe some adaptogenic herbs. So these are herbs that help your nervous system to adapt to stress. Maybe you could think about herbs like she mentions something called schisandra berry. It's a berry that helps you manage stress more effectively. It's a liver-moving herb if we look at Chinese medicine. But what it does overall is help us to deal with life's stressors. So thinking about certain herbs that you might be taking, maybe your naturopathic doctor prescribed, maybe you're interested in certain herbs like chaga, the mushroom that gives us energy. How could you incorporate that into your diet? How could you incorporate that into a meal as something that you just have in as a tonic? So Marcela is going to give us some tips, and I really want you to have an open mind during this podcast about what maybe you could do at home to up-level your food to have some herbs and spices in it. And then after the podcast, I'm going to talk about my experience with her book, Love, Peace, and Vegetables, and give you a really good sense of what maybe you could do on your own if this podcast hasn't inspired you yet to take your food to another level, to add in herbs, to give your food more purpose. All right, let's get into the podcast. Hello there, health junkies. Welcome to another episode of The Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Krause. And on this episode of The Health Fix, we are talking with Marcela Benson, and she is going to be telling us all about her book, which is called Love, Peace, and Vegetables, Recipes for Conscious Living. And we're going to be talking about the spiritual approach to conscious living and total immersion into the live food lifestyle. And more importantly than that, we're going to be talking about how you can regain your connection to your food with herbs and so much more. So Marcela, thank you for coming on the Health Fix podcast.
Thank you, dear. Thank you for having me.
So you have your book. You were telling me before we started recording that it has 444 pages. It's like an encyclopedia. And I am so excited for folks to hear about this because one, I love recipes. I love ideas, but 444 pages worth. Holy cow. How long did it take you to compile this? Is this a lifetime of work?
Definitely. It's a lifetime of work, and it's been about 10 years, 20 years of studying. And it's a lifetime, because I started my journey when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
So it's much more than just 20 years. My journey started meditating in an ashram at 15 years old, understanding that vegetarianism was the way for me to go. And then later on in life, it was like, okay, I got some more knowledge and some more happenings that took me to, I needed to search for more, my 2 children and a marriage. And I had to, how am I going to raise my children that are going to be healthy when everything around me is not healthy? How am I going to keep raising myself as a woman to keep my vitality? When I was 28, I remember going to a belly dancing class, and my teacher, who was the wife of Victoria Skulvinskas, Yukta, Victoria Skulvinskas was one of one of the life food grandfathers or great grandfathers at this age now. Wow. Yes. And she was in her 40s and I was in my late 20s, and she could raise her leg straight up and she could dance like she was flowing around the dance floor. And I'm like, I don't have the energy.
Whoa.
And I'm like, what's wrong with me? The only thing she said to me is like, go to my husband, he's there by his book. That's what I do.
Huh.
That's all she said to me. And then I started reading, started getting educated. And also my son, the school diagnosed him with the doctors, the system. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The system, let's call it the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, it's not possible. He was normal. He was everything was perfect. Everything is perfect. He's a little moody. But, I figure, well, he's my Scorpion child. He's going to bring me some challenges here. And, but he was smart. Yeah. He was smart. I could see him playing with his trains and his cars. I'm like, this boy is entertained. So I could not believe, I could not take it. I could not take that my son would need a medicine.
Yeah.
For me, that was not, I come from Argentina, mind you, and we don't grow up with all this so much, at least back in the days. Maybe now it's different. Huh? Back in the days, even in Buenos Aires, the city where I grew up, it wasn't, and my mom was an immigrant, my father was an immigrant. So, we had no roots to any systems because, when you go from country to country, escaping wars and escaping troublesome to find peace somewhere, basically, you're out of the system.
Yeah.
It's a curse and a blessing all wrapped in one. So I grew up very much out of the system in that sense, not, you have to have this pill or you have to have that pill, you had a stomach ache, you had to have some tea. Mm-hmm. You had a headache, you had another tea for the headache.
Yeah. This and this is, the old country, as a lot of us would say. I grew up Polish. It was the same with my grandmother. It was a tea for this, or sometimes you did a little bit of brandy or one of her alcohol concoctions she had with that she had steeped certain types of herbs in, and was like, this is for this. And that's just how it was. So when, we look at what's going on now, where you watch a TV commercial and you're basically being told what medications to ask your doctor for, it becomes a little scary. And you start to think, well, wait a minute, what happened to our connection with the earth? What happened to our connection with the land? What happened to the connection with things that actually used to help us that I think still do. It's
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. You know, we are energy, and we have to come back, take back our power,
Mhm.
you know, and knowledge is power. Being able to breathe in a rhythmic way is also power. Telling your brain that you are not the thoughts that it's making up, and telling your brain to cooperate with your soul and calling back your soul into your body, it's important. And you call back your soul just by calling it back, and you call back your soul by living a life that is aligned with your soul purpose. And aligned living with your soul purpose is aligned, is a life aligned with nature.
Mm-hmm.
A life aligned with connections, with friendships, with touch, with the understanding that our loving intention when we prepare food changes the water structure of your food. Our loving intention as we pray over our food and are grateful changes the structure of our food to convert this food into not only a matter to feed your matter, but to bring the cosmic aspects of bringing light into your food, making it biocompatible with your energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and bringing that gratefulness into your life when you eat. We need more of this. We need more of this, and this is the purpose also of this book, of bringing more of that. So I always say, don't be afraid with diagnosis, because if you go to another doctor and you go to another doctor and you go to another one, you're gonna get many different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the only opinion that matters is yours, and how you get out of the fear mongering system into power, into every day of your life, coming into power and coming into more knowledge and coming into more joy, you know. And when knowledge doesn't serve you anymore is when wisdom descends upon you, and you will know the answers. You will know the answers. Trust me, I raised a whole family. I raised my children, my son who's married now for a year, my daughter who is just graduating from philosophy and neurocognitive science, and now she wants to become a naturopath. How about that?
That's a great combo. That's a great combo.
Yeah, and I told her, you know, once you start, you never finish. You want to be a healer, you have to study for life, because there is so many plants, there is so many herbs, and healing is an art, and every person is different. And we must, and we are different also. So we must always work in ourselves in order to be able to serve others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to. And I think this is where, I've had to learn my lessons. As a doctor, you give, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I have nothing left right now. I have to replenish myself. And I think for ladies, this is a common thing for us. We're taking care of kids, we're taking care of parents, maybe, and we give, and then we have nothing left for ourselves.
Yes, yes. But is this, it is a little bit, yes, we have to find balance into, I always say to my students when they come to me, okay, what rocks your boat? Every day you have to have something that just, that gets you there. It's not just work, do. You got to have a ritual. You have to have something that, or even a good friend that you can call every day and say, hey, and that, it depends on what level you are and where you are in your life. I like to, when I enter my kitchen, I like to put music. When I have time on my own, I like to, listen to some quiet music. And and mind you, I did a few rituals here around my house, like for example my water. I talk about in my book about my water, and having a water altar in your home.
Interesting. Tell me more about that.
So the water altar, it is a place, because we are water. If we don't have enough water and we don't have salt, which are the minerals, we lose conductivity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is very important, salt, iodine, and water. We need to have, our cells need to be hydrated. And most of the people, because of technology and, EMF, electro pollution, we have an incredible amount of dehydration. And our brain shrinks,
Mm-hmm.
About 30%. And then on top of that, we put sugar, and so then we are another, we have this mental fog, because all of a sudden our brain is not working well because it's just overpowered with sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it doesn't have enough water to be able to process what you have done, not your emotions, not your, whatever is happening in your life. So whatever is happening in your life, doesn't matter what is, salt, good salt, and water. And most of the people don't like to drink water. It's very interesting. I'm like, water. And because they don't like to drink water because they're not drinking a good water.
Yeah.
So here in the book, I explain, if you're in a city, what are your best options, and how to raise the frequency of your water by doing certain steps. And then if you are out in the country, just make sure, become knowledgeable where the springs are. There's plenty of springs out in different places. In fact, I live in Miami. For you to know, there is a sacred spring in the middle of the city. I mean, we are, yeah, it's really? And it's being in the care of this person who's never wanting to sell his house, because he knows this was a sacred spring from the Native American people on the area back in the days. Wow. In fact, they had to stop construction of huge buildings because it was a native burial ground. So they stopped building near that area. So how important is water and how important is salt? Yeah. And mind you, what I'm saying, you have to individualize it with somebody who knows you, somebody who knows your body, if you don't know it yet. Okay. So these are general strokes for something general, and then you have to go deeper into personalizing it, individualizing these strokes for you, depending where your body is, where your health is. Okay, so it's important to understand this. So basically, most of our water, and most of when we have tears is salty. Mm-hmm. When we sweat is salty. We must replenish that. And, you're not going to replenish it with table salt, which is sodium chloride. It's a salt that is being completely demineralized, just because when they demineralize it and they process it and they take everything out, they can sell it in parts more expensive. And sodium chloride does a number for your body in many different ways than one. Yeah. Okay. But good salt, hand-mined salt from ancient dried oceans that exist inside mountains. Yeah. Right now, I don't know which sea salt is good because of the plastic in the ocean, and we have a lot of microplastic from clothes coming to the environment and yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to go that way. So
what salt do you use then? So
I use a mixture of 4 salts from 4 different parts of the world. Okay. It's one that is red, that is, I believe, is Hawaiian. The other one is black, and one is from United States, from very good. So it's a mixture that I buy all together.
Okay.
It's a mixture of salts that I buy all together that I like very much. So these two things are very, very important. When you have the correct amount of salt in your body, what happens is when you drink, when you're drinking water, you're creating hydroelectricity through your body. You're not just drinking water. This water is like the power plants that they create energy when water passes through and the water creates energy. Well, it's the same thing in your body. Our bodies are batteries, and are full of energy, full of light. We're electromagnetic beings, electricity and magnets. Yeah, we have magnets in our pineal gland. I think we have magnets somewhere else. I don't remember right now. Maybe in one of the glands. I don't remember, but I know in the pineal gland we do. So then it is very important to have the right amount of energy in terms of water, liquids, in terms of herbs that bring their own pattern of sacred energy to us. Yeah. And in terms of food, biogenic food that is aligned, that is not only just food, but it has an energy behind it that modulates your energy, bringing you into health and coherence.
Yes, the coherence. This is something that I think a lot of people aren't as familiar with in terms of how to find food that really feels good with them. Because I think our history, unfortunately, we've demonized a lot of different foods. Like, this food's bad. This is going to make me fat. This is going to make me sick. This is, hypoallergenic, histamines, lectins, you name it. We have all of these different ideas with food. And so I think a lot of people have lost that connection between what really is good for me and this coherence concept that you're presenting. How do you teach folks about coherence with food? How does that work?
Yes. Well, when there's many levels of teachings, and it all depends where the student is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And of course, the level of coherence that I teach is through live food nutrition. And here you're going to find a ton of recipes that will bring that to you. But then coherence is not just a matter of separating, okay, have this soup, have this salad, have this herb. It's not just that. We are the herb, the salad, our relationships, our relationship with the divine, our relationship with all of our family, okay? Our relationship with our work, our relationship with our sleep, our relationships with the clothes we wear. Mm-hmm. How do we clean our house? Our relationship, and how do we clean our house? Our relationship to everything. Everything is a relationship. So we cannot section off how I'm going to teach coherence, because everything is part of coherence.
Absolutely.
You see? And yes, it is coherent to clean your house with no chemicals. We are addicted to chemicals. And I think people do not understand that they are addicted to chemical soaps. For example, I wash all my clothes with magnets.
Interesting. Huh.
Just throw the magnets in the washer. You're going to be saving a lot in soaps. It's good for the environment. What the magnets do, you have the positive and the negative. They make the water, okay? They make the water very very small, very light, so it can get through the fibers and clean.
Interesting.
Yes, so magnets are excellent. So then you have to spot clean, but you have to spot clean when you put detergent anyway. If you have if you have a very big stain, don't you have to spot clean it before you throw it in the washer?
Absolutely. I mean,
okay, it's the same thing.
Wow.
It's the same thing. So coherence goes for everything. And that's what I call consciousness. Mm-hmm. Consciousness brings you into coherence.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And consciousness, we have to get rid of this idea. I think we've been brainwashed that everything needs to be comfortable and easy and everything should feel good and dandy. And sometimes, it just isn't that way. Sometimes being conscious takes us to places what is not comfortable. Yeah, it is not comfortable to learn how to ride a bicycle, but then we all go through it, and the people that learn, they just can do it, and they say, oh, this is easy. Yeah, so it happens with everything that way. It happens with the recipes in these books. It happens with whenever you're going to do something new for yourself. And the most important thing that I can say to you is just be kind to yourself with your thoughts. Yeah, when you find yourself saying you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, stop it. Listen to it, stop it, and you say, I can do this. And start replacing your words in your mind. I would have never been able to do this book if it wasn't because I just stopped it. Yeah. And I said, I can do this. It took me 10 years. It took me 10 years. If I didn't have, but you see, I had to do it. And I had to stop myself into thinking I couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you stop yourself and you bring your life into that consciousness with nutrition, with herbs, with good friendships, see, you enter into a coherent state.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So for folks who are listening, if you're not really familiar with coherence, the idea is, yes, that there is every aspect of your life. When it's coherent, you're in the flow, things are going well. And for your health in particular, if we go back to food and we go back to recipes and getting back in touch with the kitchen, I think for a lot of people, it's a learning curve to get back into the kitchen. But I think it's also an aspect of things coming together for an experience in the kitchen. And when I look at your book, the love, peace, and vegetables, to me, it's thinking of making peace with making food again. Because a lot of women will come in my practice and say, I had kids, I'm done, they're out of the house, I don't want to cook ever again. And then their health goes downhill because they're not taking care of themselves. And so much could be said about bringing an experience back to the kitchen. Now, you were talking about the salt, you were talking about the water. And I noticed that you also mentioned on your website about structuring your water at home. Can you tell us a little bit of structuring water? Because I think about structured water and I think about that as the foundation for cooking, but the foundation for the body too. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. Well, you can definitely use different gadgets to structure it, but just by having a little bit of salt and your blessing, you are restructuring your water. You can read the books on structuring water and the studies that Emoto Matsudo did, which is beautiful. They're beautiful books. He passed away a few years ago, and he really was the master of water, to bringing it into, he would put certain music like tango, and then he will freeze the water, and then they will take a picture. They will take a picture as with this incredible what do you call this?
Like the microscope.
The microscope, thank you, with very, very specific microscope. And then they will see, a tango is a heart-to-heart music, yeah? And it's dance, it's your heart against your partner's heart. And it's all about the heart, the music is all about, the men and the woman merging into one, heart-to-heart. And then the picture of the water with the tango was heart-to-heart. Mm-hmm. And he tested different waters around the world, and he shows the structure of that water. He tested water prayed by Tibetan monks, and the water was like a diamond, the pattern. And he tested water with bad thoughts, with bad words. You're stupid, or you are whatever. And then you can see that the water could not form into a crystal. So as we think about ourselves and about our lives and about everything, we are structuring also our water within. Mm-hmm. We are setting these waves. So we have to be very careful of our thoughts if we want to have coherence, if we want to come into order, if we want to come into balance, yeah, balance, order, coherence, they all go together. We must send to the water of our vessel good thoughts, take yourself there. That's why I always say, okay, you have a problem, go to laughing yoga. Just go and be silly, and that will change you. I was reading something very interesting about somebody who healed themselves from a terminal. I think the one that did the yoga, that brought the yoga, laughing yoga here. He was a doctor and started doing that, and he healed himself. I don't know. I recently hear this, and it was phenomenal. And I've been recommending laughing yoga all the time because it's so important to laugh, come into joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really embracing joy and love and the feelings that kind of come along with that can make a huge difference.
Yes. So, and sometimes it is work. Yeah, not sometimes. And people think, oh, this should all come naturally. No. My mom, who came from Israel when the last war happened and Israel became Israel, and she went with her father and mother to live to Rome, and then they ended up in Argentina, and all of these. What brought her out of PTSD, what brought her out of that mentality was joy and laughter. And this we must, and it was not easy for her. It was not natural because she didn't grow up knowing joy and laughter. She grew up knowing we have to escape, we have to save our lives, we have to escape, we have to save our life. And it's not easy, but it's a very good example because sometimes joy and laughter, you have to put yourself in the way of joy and laughter, put yourself into that silliness, find a silly friend, whatever, and sometimes it's like that, we are under this notion that happiness should come when you attain. You attain this, you attain that, I'm going to get there with this. And, and one of the things is you don't need to attain anything. Nothing will fulfill that space unless you come to this space yourself. You bring to yourself to this space.
This is
if
true.
You want it long lasting, you have to bring your whole self.
Yeah, no, this is something, maybe 5 years ago, I would have been like, no, I'm just, going to bury my head in the sand and going to go as hard as I can to get to where I am at and get there. But now I'm starting to really realize all of the things that come to you come through the thoughts and come through that combination. Now, one of the things that I find absolutely fascinating about your book and everything is the concept of the live food lifestyle. And I think a lot of people might be like, well, isn't food alive to a point? Tell us a little bit about what that means and how that can also help with our vibrancy, with our joy, with things of that nature too.
Yes. Well, when you cook food, basically you are degrading the protein, you're degrading the phytonutrients, you're degrading the enzymes to zero. Yeah. So that's really what happens when you analyze cooked foods and you analyze live food, raw food. There is a difference between live food and raw food. That raw food might include some raw meats, and live food is only alive. And it's vegan. That's a little bit of the difference. But they cross over all the time. Most of the people who talk about raw food are vegan. But anyway, when you're eating food that is alive, that it has biophotonic energy, that has the enzymatic value, that has all the aspects, all the minerals and the vitamins and the colors your body needs, then you need so much less food. It's really amazing. Like when you start cooking, I cook many times. Like I cook some things, but I try to keep it at 80% or sometimes 50, because if I'm traveling, it's a little bit harder. Yeah. But it's easy, really. It's really not difficult. You have your water, you have your salt, and then you have your fermented foods. How about that? fermented foods are very important, and they're a very active part of the life food, of the life food movements, that you're going to have your sauerkraut and you're going to have your kimchi, and maybe you're going to make other, other fermented stuff, and the food should be alive. It should be whole, an avocado is an avocado. And you can also research if you're interested to know. They have some Kirlian pictures. I think my friend David Wolf, he in his book Eating for Beauty, is it there? I don't remember which book. He has the Kirlian pictures showing you the life force of a walnut. Yeah, so they took Kirlian picture, and you can see the light going through it. They show olive oil, and you can see the life of the olive oil. And all of this, which is so important, and is an incredible amount of light, which is biophotonic light, which Kirlian pictures read.
Interesting. I think a lot of people aren't thinking about the amount of life left in their food when they eat it, and what nutrients. We're told food is devoid of nutrients. We need our multivitamins, things of that nature. But if we are able to access foods that are still quite alive, like sprouts, things with microgreens, things of that nature, these are things that I think a lot of folks can benefit greatly from. I'm guessing you have some good recipes in that department. Can you describe, give us a little taste of one of your recipes, something that has maybe some sprouts or microgreens or something of that nature?
Everything that I make has sprouts and microgreens. I love it. I teach here in this book. I show you how to make your own if you want to. And I also give you the option of find your local farmer who is already doing this and buy it. Yeah, there is, and I have many, I am a foodie. I love food. Yeah. So I have many, many, many delicious, wonderful recipes. But I share with you one of that I like. It's called my blueberry Zen Pie. And I called it the Zen Pie because I use not only blueberries, I blended it's all fresh blueberries. And then I blend the blueberries. And when I blend the blueberries and I make this like smoothie-like juice, I put it in the dehydrator to concentrate it a little more. Yeah. Once I concentrate it a little more and I take it out, I also add schisandra berries to it.
Nice.
Yeah, I add this schisandra berry. I add schisandra berry tea, and I mix it with the blueberries. Then I concentrate it. I forgot. Then I take it out, and then the dough that I make, that is with almonds, I also put ginseng. So then you have this delicious, earthy ginseng. Ginseng gives you that deep root, especially right now that everybody is suffering with anxiety. I don't know, if you get a very good ginseng older than 7 years, it'll give you that sensation. Or even if you need, you have to see what's good for you. You can do ginseng, you can do maca, you might do, it depends what you want. But once you get the point of how I think about food, once you get the point of that, then you start thinking of food a whole new way. And that's what I'm trying to teach in the book. Like when I make an herbal latte, okay, I make a chagachino on an herbal latte, and I explain to you what are these things do for you. Yeah. And all of a sudden you have this information that, wow, I'm going to start thinking a whole new way. For example, you go into my liquid wisdom part of the book, right? And I have aromatic waters. And my aromatic waters, I have one that is roses. And my rose water, I really created it for the sacred feminine in the male and female. Yeah. When we need to nourish that part of ourselves, just go and get some organic rose petals and a little bit of hydrosol, put it in water and sip that through the day. and see what happens. Treat yourself with rose waters. If you are having a lot of problems in the stomach, how about you put some fennel and mint into water and drink that all day? See what happens, because the whole structure of the water changes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's what live food is. Live food is not, I don't like to find any dogmas, so wherever you are, include some recipes that are smart, that have a strong understanding of the human body, and include them into your life. You don't need to give up your whole life or become the cleanest, the purest, or you don't need to, because we are here to experience. And but we're here to also experience the good stuff. The bad stuff is also good to experience, because that teaches us. Mm-hmm. It's all good.
I think that's a really good point you're making, and that it's all good, no matter if you perceive at first bad, you perceive something at good, bad, whatever, it's all an experience. It's all part of the learning. Now, I really want you to talk about the tea that you have there, because folks, before we started recording, Marcela was telling me about this amazing tea that she has there from Honduras. And it looked like cinnamon in there for when I first looked at it, but she was telling me it's something much different. So tell us a little bit, because I have some folks that'll be watching this on IGTV, but for those of you who are not, it looks like there are like pieces of cinnamon, but it is pieces of a bark, correct?
Yes. And it starts, this is the last of it, so we chopped it, but basically it's just like if you were putting a piece of Palo Santo in your water. Mm-hmm. Right? But it doesn't look like Palo Santo, it doesn't smell like Palo Santo. It's called taray, the blue stick. Okay? So, and it's high in quinine, it's high in shishimic acid. I'm pronouncing it wrong. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. Anyway, somebody will know there.
And its goal, what is it do for us? So if someone's going to drink that tea, what are they going to feel? What are they going to experience?
It's wonderful for, it doesn't taste like anything. It's quite soothing when you have it, and it cleanses, you feel not right away, but most people feel like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. And all of a sudden you start going to the bathroom. And as you take it for a few days, then you stop going to the bathroom. So it cleanses the kidneys. Mm-hmm. And it's good for your immune system. And also it has a very, very interesting quality that I don't know it quite well. I have to study it a little longer. You see here, you see only yellow. But if you were to see these the first few days of brew, it has a blue halo, like a blue iridescent halo. It's very beautiful. Now it's like I think it lost all of this blue halo already. When you start chopping it, you don't see that much of a blue. Mm-hmm. And it's wonderful. I always say, just don't only have water, put your herbs in your water. Sometimes, the other day I went to my garden and I took thyme and I took sage and I took, what else? I took passion flowers, because I have a whole passion flower thing growing out there. And I just put it all in water and I had the most delicious water.
This is nice. And this is something that I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think about, just to try. And this is just in your backyard. Now, granted, you're in Miami, other folks may be in different states, and where I am in Illinois right now, most things are still in a very dormant state of existence, but you could look into your cabinet too, and you could try something that is dried. Granted, it's not live, but
still you see the plants once you're adding the water, and I think it's very important to understand we are the seasons too. So if you are in the season in a place where right now everything's still dormant, it is absolutely correct to go into all the dry herbs for the body. It's the correct thing to do, but maybe probably there is other berries, there is a lot of things that I think it's important to know what grows in your area,
Mm-hmm.
to know your local farmers, and and always stimulate that. I always say, please, with my book, stimulate all of your local bookstores. Go, and if they don't have it, tell them you want to order Love, Peace, and Vegetables from Marcela. And it's not, you order from a little bookstore because you want to keep them open. Yeah. Like, you want good food, you have to find your local farmers. You want good products, you have to take that little extra step. You see, so consciousness, that's what I'm saying. Consciousness is not for the faint of heart. Consciousness is for the people that are going to take the extra steps to do what they need to do in order to keep things alive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a whole concept of the ecosystem, right? So not only us, but the world in which we interact with.
Yes. And there's no perfection. Like, for example, I tried to do this book with, I did. It's all sustainable forestry paper, and it was printed in the United States of America.
Wow.
Yeah. And you're going to receive it in a card box that is recycled, 60% recyclable card box. So with whatever skills I have right now, I was able to get it this far this time. And next time, maybe when I do something else, it'll be even better. So wherever you are and whatever you can do, what you do is enough. And that's important. That's important to know, because we tend to go into judgment all the time. We tend to go into judgment, and I want people to, if they get anything from me all the time, I want them to be kind to themselves. Mm-hmm. I'm trying very hard to be kind to myself too.
It's not easy. It's amazing how our brain will say things and you're like, wow, okay, where did that come from? And you're constant. It's a work in progress all the time.
Yes, because we are not what we are today. We are the sum of many generations who have been taught through the ways of suffering instead of the ways of joy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we have to clean. We have to clean house, and we are doing that.
One day at a time, for sure. And I think your book, Love, Peace, and Vegetables, really gives folks a whole idea of how to do this in addition to the foods. It's kind of like a recipe for life here is what I'm gathering that your book is all about.
Thank you, my dear. That's my little dog. She sounds like a huge dog, but she's like this little. She's this little. So I'm so sorry for the noise. I don't think they know that I'm up here having this super nice meeting with you, but life is life. Such is life.
Yes. No worries. Well, Marcela, thank you so much for sharing your story, all about your book, and just teaching us a lot about consciousness. I think it's a great message that isn't said enough and should be said more, for sure.
Yes. This is the whole point, is that come into consciousness, trust, and come into consciousness.
Hey, fellow health junkie, thanks for listening to the Health Fix podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please help support me to get the word out about the podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review, and just get that word out. Thanks again for listening.